4 in the morning, I will have 20 kilos of dynamite in my back, and I was climbing with my team. And then in the morning, when the sun come out, we will be throwing this like a grenade, creating the avalanche and making the ski area safe. I learned how to handle risk. Risk is something that you don't have to avoid, you have to manage. The reason thought of why India was, this is a vibrant country that has everything to grow. You need to find the right partner. You know, IRB is best in the class. For us to be here, we need to have a pipeline of risky assets. We invest in an asset because we like risk. Remember, I'm a avalanche controller.
Yes, Mr. Dynamite.
Yeah, we would love to see big projects, you know, $1 billion, $2 billion projects in cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Jaipur. The important thing here is to build more infrastructure. No matter who is in power, they need to have a consensus as what is best for India going forward in the next 30 years.
Carlos, thank you for joining us here at Resolute Partners and coming down for our event. It was an absolute delight listening to your experience in India so far, your journey as an investor. Before I come to your work life, you have a very interesting and colorful story before you came to Ferrovial. Can I spend a couple of minutes talking about it? I find it interesting because the skills I think that you learned as a tour guide, as an avalanche controller, as a ski instructor, you're putting all that to work. You're in very difficult markets, right? You're in Chile, you're in Peru, you're in India, where you're navigating different policies, regulators, finding the right partner. You're putting all those skills that you've learned in your life through these varied interests to work Ferrovial's capital. Spend a little bit of time talking to us about that.
Yeah, thank you. I am very proud of my former lives, you know, because I have many former lives. I study economy in the university. And while I study economy, my summers, instead of going, you know, to the beach house with my fathers, I went to Europe to work. So my first year in Europe, I worked as an avalanche controller in a ski area because I was a good skier.
What do you do as an avalanche controller? You're assessing risk?
Yeah. No. What you do actually is you go up the mountain in the night or after a storm with dynamite, and you use the dynamite to make the avalanche so the ski area is safe for the skiers. So you take a lot of risk. You know, I was able to take that job because I was a good skier. I didn't speak French at that time. Now I speak French. You know, because it didn't require skills of talking. And the skills that were required were, you know, to be able to ski good and to be able to climb the mountain. So say at 4 in the morning, I will have 20 kilos of dynamite in my back.
And you're causing avalanches.
And I was going up, climbing with my team. And then in the morning, when the sun come out, we will be throwing this like a grenade, creating the avalanche and making the ski area safe. And then when it was safe, we'll call the office and say, look, you can open the ski area for the tourists.
Are you called Mr. Dynamite in your peer circles?
No. I loved that job because I was able to ski the most incredible ski, you know, out of bounds in the world. And I learned how to handle risk. Risk is something that you don't have to avoid. You have to manage. And you have to know, and you have to know your limitations, to what extent you can go. And I was caught by an avalanche once. I was lucky, you know, in that one. I was caught with my good friend that I still see, you know, 40 years after, in France. And that was one part. And after that, I went back to university for a year. And then I came back to France to work. And I passed the degree of ski instructor, and I decided to stop the university for a year to go around the world and work. And I went to Africa, and I work as a excursion guide. So I will take people into the Sahara, you know, in Land Rovers for a week time, and we will go into the dunes and go around, you know, with these people. And I learned something very important there. In addition to learning language, Italian, French, you know. In one of those trips, I was going with 3 Land Rovers full of people. One dad that had a kid that was maybe 7 year old came to me and say, my kid is vomiting, is with fever. And we were in the middle of the Sahara. We had like another 200 kilometers to our place, and we have 100 kilometers to a hospital. And I was very young. I was 21 years old at the time. I put all the people in two Land Rovers and say, you keep going to our place with the guide, the local guide. And I took the dad and the kid to the hospital, you know. And that was a very good decision because he was dehydrated. So if I have gone the other way, he might have died. And those decisions, those are taken in seconds, you know. You know, you have to make a decision. And I learned, you know, at that time that you don't have all the whole information to make a decision. You have information, you will structure the information, and you will follow your instinct too. So it's a combination. For example, people now, they're all AI. And I was talking to my daughter the other day about that. She just graduated from biochemistry and computer science from Berkeley. Okay, so she's a brainy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was talking about AI and said that no AI can replicate the mind thought.
Right.
You know, there's no way, because they could give you set of things from data.
Yeah. That you have inputted.
That a human inputted.
Yeah.
But they will never, ever be able to put the intuition.
Yeah.
And I remember that decisions that I use intuition with data. So that's things that I put together. And then another time, I was in Switzerland. After my year, I went to Switzerland because my visa in France expired. So I went to Switzerland, and I was going to go back to France to work in the ski area. And in Switzerland, they denied me the visa for France. I think I had like say $100, and I was in Switzerland with $100, which is nothing.
Right.
Okay. And I was there, you know, like shocking. What am I going to do? You know, I don't have money. And then I sat on Lake Geneva and looked at the water. I remember some words of a book from Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. Maybe you have heard. Well,
yeah. Heard.
That says, the river always flows, but the water is always there. And I realized, what's the problem? I've been here for a year. I've been in Africa. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I have no problem.
Yeah.
I have no money. What's the problem? I'm going to find a solution. And I just stand up and actually found the solution in 5 seconds. So those things that are part of my life help me being there. They help me being an international guy, not having fear when I go to a new country and doing things like coming to India, trying to understand the culture, making connections. As Richard said, that's the most important, to make the connections, to make feeling with the people, and then you can do business because you have the feeling and you will do the business. The numbers, important, intuition, connections, and you will do that.
So invest in people first and the capital comes later.
Yeah, you have to understand people, why people laugh, why people cry, you know. And when you understand that, you understand the society, you know. And if you understand the society, it's easy to make investments and connections.
You sort of learned those life skills and now you're applying it as the corporate and business development head at Ferrovial. Let's come to the big question, right? We don't have too many developers of your pedigree in India. Why is that? And why is it that as Ferrovial, you chose India as a market to partner with, maybe for what, 30, 40, 50 years? You've already, invested $2 billion. Why are you here in India and what's your plan?
Well, I mean, the reason thought of why India was, this is a very vibrant country that has everything to grow. The country has joined, I would say, a start of a line, and they're not going back. They understand what they need to do to become a developed country, and they are doing that. They will have ups and downs, but the trend is there. And if the trend is there, and if it's a big consensus, it's very difficult that that goes down. So with all the opportunities, then you want to ride that boat. And you want to be the first one in that boat. That's why we came. But because it's so huge, because it's so different, it's a different country, different language, different culture, you need to find the right partner. And that was the first thing to do, find the right partner. And we found very good partner. IRB is best in the class. And then GIC, which is with IRB, so that made us a good trilogy of partners to ride the India growth economy through what we know, which is infrastructure.
Right.
And then why there are not more developers? As I told in the presentation, people in the investment community, they have long memory of bad things, and they don't stop and say, okay, this happened because of this. This is not here now. It's not going to happen, or it's less likely to happen. They still believe it's going to happen. And I always say India has something that most of Southeast Asia does not have. Most of the world does not have. I mean, all of the government, most of the people, all of the skilled workforce speak English.
Yeah.
Well, so the British, they left something here.
Yeah.
They left the English and the common law.
Yeah.
They have institutions. So those three things, you don't have in China. You don't have it in most of Southeast Asia. Even in Latin America, you have it, but so with those, you can build something. And there are contracts that will allow you to go and invest. Then the other question is, are you going to be able to exit? That depends on the timing. Yes, you're going to.
What are your typical sort of exit cycles like? I mean, what is the term that
For us, the exit cycle is not an exit cycle. We invest in an asset because we like risk. Remember, I'm a avalanche controller.
Yes, Mr. Dynamite.
Yeah, I like risk, control risk.
Yes.
And when we control the risk, it's boring.
Okay.
So, we want to go to a next one. The exit strategy for us is when an asset is de-risked, say a HAM or say a no construction risk, no traffic risk because it's already known, there is a better owner for that asset than us, a guy that don't like risk. So he will go and pay us a premium for that. Yeah. He will pay a lower IRR, and then we sell it and we go back and invest that money into a risky asset. So for us to be here, we need to have a pipeline of risky assets.
Yeah.
And the assets that we like the most are the urban assets.
Okay.
And India is not yet there. And if they don't, we will exit. As I told you, we just signed a contract in Peru, which is, an economy that is not even close to 100 of what India economy is. It's much less unstable in political, but it works, of 4 billion.
If I could talk numbers, do you have a number in mind in short to medium term for India?
Well, we would love to see big projects, $1 billion, $2 billion projects in cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Jaipur, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore. We would like to see that. We like the interconnectivity. What we are doing now, we like it, but we think that's the first step. Those are easy projects.
Right.
No risky. I mean, when someone said, "Oh, no developer," for us it's good because we have better returns because they have less competition.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But we want competition. We want these guys because we want to go to the next step.
I know you said that the first step in India is to find the right partner, right?
Yeah.
And you found and you've spoken so well and so highly of IRB. Typically, in the other markets you operate in, do you just stick to one partner? In India, is that going to be your strategy, or you're going to look for other partners?
No, we stick with one partner. I think that's part of the game. You have to, unless the partner wants to exit, unless you are so big that you're going to do it alone.
Yeah.
Say India decide to do big infra deals in cities, and IRB say, well, that's not my game. I don't want to take that risk. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
We will first ask him to come with us, and if he say no, now we will feel comfortable to go alone.
Okay, so you clearly believe in the institution of marriage in
Yeah,
the in the
exactly.
investment space.
Yeah.
Tell me,
I mean, if for a contract, and that's another thing, with the government, I believe, this is like a marriage without divorce law. I mean,
yeah,
a contract, and that's why I said you will have problems in 50, 30 years,
yes,
and the way you have to solve it is find a solution that no one lose face.
yeah, yeah.
The government don't lose face, you don't lose face, the investor don't lose face. So that's why I say that a concession contract is a marriage without divorce
Without
law.
a divorce law. Okay, since you touched upon contract, great segue, Carlos. Tell me a little bit of innovations that you've been able to bring in some of your contracts in India.
In Chile, for example, they were talking about exchange rate here in the presentation. When we started in Chile, and I started in Ferrovial in 1998, okay, we won a project that was $1 billion in Chile, 1998.
That's a lot of
okay?
money. Yeah.
The financial market was not able to take that financing. It was impossible. The financial market at that time was a $200 million for a project. So we had a project and we couldn't finance it. So we have to bring international financing. But then you have a mismatch because you have tolls in pesos or tolls in rupees and debt in dollars. That is a no-no.
Yeah.
Because if the exchange rate change,
Yeah.
then you're stuck. You have a problem. So I devised a system. I proposed it to the government for an exchange rate hedge, and it was a fair thing for the government. We did it, and we were able to finance that. I have a photo of that. We closed the deal in September 5, 2011.
Okay.
And I was in the Twin Towers negotiating that 6 days before the Twin Towers came down.
Oh, God.
But that was an exchange rate solution, and we were able to bring $1 billion to Chile. And that changed the whole market, because from then, everyone was done like that, and the market just exploded, and Chile was able to do a lot of projects because of that.
Okay.
And then there was another innovation, that's why I say contract innovation, in which we created something, we call it the mechanism of share revenue, and in which, the concession was like an elastic, okay? So the concession was 35 years long, but if things went wrong, you were able to extend the size of the concession. And if things were better than expected, it shorted the contract.
Yeah.
So like that, it was a fair game,
Yeah.
for the government, and the government didn't have to put money, it was just term placed on that.
Have you had to manage any risk in India in this fashion in your contracts?
Not so far. We have some problems right now in some of the concessions there, but they were talking about new roads that
Competing roads. Yeah.
competing roads,
Yeah.
and I think that it should be the deal in a way that is fair, for the investors, because you're building a road because they're asking to build a road to solve a problem, and it's not fair that once you solve the problem with an expectation, the government builds you a competing road. Unless before, when you were bidding, they said, we will build this.
Yeah.
Then we will have to put it into our model, analyze it, and see whether, that will be a bad thing. But if it's not on the model, it's not disclosed, then it should be compensated in a way that can be compensated. And a government that is wise will understand that, because the important thing here is to build more infrastructure to connect the country, connect for efficient productivity, and also connect the cities. That's important to do. It's for GDP growth.
You've been in India now for 2.5, 3 years. The experiences that you've had with your partner, with looking at the landscape at a macro level and at a micro level, because you're in a sector which is, you have an interface with the regulator, you have an interface with the government, you have an interface with the public, right? What is some of the top 2, 3 things on your wish list that will sort of take your confidence to the next level and bring in more capital to the country?
I think that the most important thing on my wish list, is that no matter who is in power, They need to have a consensus of what is best for India going forward in the next 30 years in terms of investments. So, and once you get that,
well, you would face that governments change, your priorities, infrastructure priorities change, right? Every government wants its name against the next big project, right? So you want to up the previous guy and say, hey, no, this is not a priority. Something else is going to be a priority. How do you sort of navigate some of those challenges?
well, I mean, that first of all, we are apolitical, okay?
Of course.
That's the first thing. When a government asks me what to do, I always said, what I think is the best thing to do. But I said, but you are the politician, you take the decision, you make the decision. This is the menu.
Right.
If you do this is the outcome. If you do this is the outcome.
That's fair.
But you are the one. So if you want investors from outside, this is what the things you need. You don't want investors from outside, well, or you want half, then this you're going to do this. But this is the consequences, okay? So I would say the most important thing is consensus. Consensus, generally, I work in the Chilean government too. I work in 1985, so I'm really old. I worked with the Chilean government that was the military government. And when I was in charge of structuring the P3 laws of Chile. We didn't have P3 law. Knowing that democracy was coming around, and that at least what I thought that we will lose, that it will lose, it will come to democracy. As an advisor, I hired a guy from the opposite party. And I worked with the opposite party, and I convinced it that that was the best thing to do for Chile. And when they won into power, they did it.
Yeah.
You see? So if my wish list will be get a consensus. This is more important than you, than your father, because it's going to be a 30-year thing, growing. So you need the consensus, so every different politician that is coming has that. And they will have their, okay, this project is mine, this other project is mine, but in line, they will be doing all the same, creating this infrastructure to make the GDP and India greater. But if you don't, I would say in Francais, dépêche-toi.
Yeah.
Which
translates into?
Dépêche-toi means speed up.
Okay.
Okay, we will go.
Yeah.
Because money goes where good investment is.
Yeah.
I'm doing investments in the US that are huge.
Yeah.
And money, will go there. So they need to understand that, you are competing in the world for these developers.
Yeah.
So they need to go for the next step. They need to do BOTs, and they need to do urban projects.
Yeah.
The project that I show here, it was a $4 billion project that has $1.7 billion equity. So in $4 billion, we put 1.7 of our money in that project.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what we want to do. Take risk. Remember the avalanche, the dynamite guy. Take risk, put the money, and leave the risk back. So if there's no projects like that, we will have to go where they are.
Are you optimistic on the project pipeline from what your partner is telling you and what you're seeing here?
I'm optimistic, but I still, I will say, I want to see projects in the cities. Not done by the government. Like the coastal road is a project that should be done by the private sector, not by the government. We will do it better, cheaper, and more efficient than the government.
Have you had a chance to tour new infrastructure?
But the coastal road should be toll. Should be toll. And maybe you don't like it. I see your face, I live in Mumbai, I'm going to be told. No, you will like it. It should be told with a free option, okay? Not fully told, okay? That's a managed lane. You should see it. But the people, they put exactly your same face, but then when they're open, they love it.
Yeah.
You need to manage congestion.
Yes.
And you need to manage with tools.
Yeah.
And that is what the cities need, because the people cannot be relying. I have a plane tomorrow at 6, in the afternoon. So I don't know at what time to go.
Yeah.
It's Saturday, maybe 4 hours before, because maybe it's gonna take 2 hours to get there. Come on. In Dallas, I have a plane. I know exactly that it's gonna take 20 minutes to get to the airport.
Yeah.
20, because I know, in no matter what day, what time of the day, and what day of the year, it's gonna be exactly the same time.
Okay.
Because of that, and that's something to work, and those projects are the projects we like. Complex, in traffic. It's very complex in terms of traffic risk.
Yes.
Very complex. Okay, and also they're very complex on construction, because it's fully of buildings. Like, I have no doubt that the companies here know how to do it, because they did the coastal road. But you need to put the other part. And,
Okay.
I'm saying that is something that it needs to be tackled, because if not, we will put the dollars in elsewhere.
I think your optimism that you have for India, and I do hope from an investor perspective, we have more of your tribe, because we really do need infrastructure, urban infrastructure, to flourish in this country. Carlos, thank you very much for spending time with us at Resolute to talk about your India plans, and your expectations of the government and your partner here. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you very much for having me.